This past Monday, the new gold standard for college football was etched into history books forever. It only took 2 years for Kirk Cincinnati to flip his Hoosiers from the nation's losingest program into undefeated national champions, and Notre Dame's reign as the Indiana powerhouse is now under fire. Coach Marcus Freeman has all of South Bend counting down to September with the most highly recruited roster in school history, but the question still remains. Will it be enough for the independent Irish to keep up with the ever-changing conference landscape? I'm David Owens, and we've got all the answers right here on Shamrock Sports. Well, we welcome you back into the studio on a very frigid Friday afternoon. David Owens, Ethan Laszlo, Leo Romano, and guys, this past Monday, just 4 days ago, Indiana changed the college football landscape forever. 16-0, perfect season. Last time this happened was 1894 with the Yale Bulldogs. And now you add in the Heisman-Doza accolade, you're looking at one of the greatest seasons of all time. Ethan, I'm going to start with you on this one. How does Indiana's new look affect Notre Dame's status as the top dog in the state?
Well, David, it's great to be here, but I'll tell you what, Notre Dame, I got to give them credit, bona fide blue blood, 11 national championships, 7 Heisman trophies, most NFL draft picks of any school, 113 All-Americans, the list goes on. But at the same time, they haven't had a Heisman winner since Tim Brown in 1987. They haven't won a national championship since 1988. So as much as I hate to say it, what they haven't done in 40 years, Indiana did in this year, 2025-2026 season. I hate to say it, but they're the new top dog in Indiana. 16-0, hasn't been done since, like you said, the 1894 Yale Bulldogs. I don't even think the forward pass was a thing yet. Yeah, it's not looking good for the Irish.
Now, Leo, what about you? Is the clock running short for the Irish?
The clock might be running a little bit short, but before I answer your question, David, huge shout out to Kirk Cincinnati and the Indiana Hoosiers on a perfect season that hadn't been done since 1894 in the Yale Bulldogs. That's one of the most remarkable turnarounds in sports history, without a doubt. And I'm a Chicago fan, so I know what it's like to turn around a franchise with the Chicago Cubs in 2016. Anyway,
tough loss for the Bears, though.
Yeah, it was a tough loss for the Bears. Thank you very much. Anyway, to get into your question, Notre Dame still remains top dog in the state of Indiana. They have the higher overall win percentage, more national championships, as Ethan mentioned earlier, 11 to now 1. And in all-time head-to-head, Notre Dame leads by a pretty substantial margin, including the contest 13 months ago, as you see here at Notre Dame Stadium, and Jeremiah Love's 98-yard run plays for you guys. I will say this, though. I would be lying if I said I was totally unaffected with the way Indiana won, because it made me sick to my stomach. And I mean really sick to my stomach that a school in Indiana won the national championship that wasn't named Notre Dame.
It's tough to say, but regardless of their in-state status, I think Indiana just solidified the fact that we're in a new era of the sport itself.
Sure.
Right.
This is the third year in a row a Big Ten team has taken home the national title, and at the same time, the SEC has not seen a championship game in 1,100 days. Leo, I mean, the question has to be asked. Does this Hoosier win really affect the whole college football landscape in terms of conference power as a whole?
It does, and by the way, 1,100 days, that's a very long time that an SEC team hasn't played. And you're right, the Big Ten now kind of runs college football. I think it's fair to say that they're the top dog in terms of the sport. Michigan, as you said, won it 2 years ago. Ohio State won it last year. And now Indiana just a few days ago, which, by the way, terrible combination of champions at my time here at Notre Dame. Michigan, Ohio State, they beat Notre Dame, by the way, and then Indiana. What's next? Miami and then or USC win next year? That would be ridiculous. But it brings up a question within the college football playoffs for sure, right? How good is the SEC? How do you start to evaluate the SEC when it comes to comparing them to other conferences? And ultimately, how many SEC teams really deserve to be in the college football playoffs? Because may I remind you guys, they had 5 teams in the college football playoffs. 1 made the semifinal game, and none made it into the championship. So The numbers speak for itself, guys.
Now, Ethan, do you think this conference shift is just a fluke, or is this something to look forward to in the next coming years?
No, this is not a fluke whatsoever, not just in the college football playoff. The viewers at home just saw Iowa defeating Vanderbilt.
Right.
Both teams pretty much near full strength in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Vanderbilt was shouting from the rooftops that they deserved a spot in the college football playoff. They deserved to be there. Greg Sankey was advocating for 7 SEC teams in the playoff, Vanderbilt and Texas. And what happened? They got beat by an Iowa team that struggled to stay in the top 25 this season. The Big Ten is the top dog in college football. This bowl season, the SEC was 2-8 against other conferences in bowl games. Just one of those 2 wins came against a Power 4 team. The Big Ten, 10-4, 3-1 against the SEC. Heck, the ACC, 9-5, 3-0 against the SEC. There's a new top dog in college football, and it's not the Southeastern Conference. It's the Big Ten, and honestly, I think that the ACC may be getting a little bit less credit than they deserve. You saw the run that Miami made from the 10th spot this year in the college football playoff.
Yeah, you make a good point. I do want to add very quickly, if I may.
Go for it.
Now that everyone can pay their players, the landscape of college football has evened out.
Well, the landscape definitely shifting, and when we return, the college football courtroom makes its infamous comeback to decide the near future of the sport itself. But first, let's go to Zach and Kira to hear about an interruption in the greatest intersectional rivalry.
A world war, the COVID-19 pandemic, and Lincoln Riley. What do these things have in common? They all stopped the historic Notre Dame-USC football rivalry. I'm Zach Worth alongside Kira Havman. Kira, take us through the reasoning behind this most recent hiatus.
Absolutely. So a lot of it has to do with USC being in the Big Ten. The past 3 national championships belong to the Big Ten. That's Michigan, Ohio State, and now most recently Indiana. So they're playing in an increasingly difficult conference. They're having a lot of tough games on their schedule, which ultimately impedes upon their playoff contention. And they don't like the idea of playing a consistently ranked opponent in the late part of the season. Now, both sides couldn't agree on a mutually beneficial time to play the rivalry. USC wanted the first week of the season, while Notre Dame wanted later in the season. Historically, the teams have bounced back and forth, coast to coast.
Yeah, exactly, Kira. I mean, if you're USC, you can see the point. Notre Dame has consistently ended their season in the past couple of years, pushing them out of the top 12 and eliminating them from college football contention. So if you're USC, you're trying to win a national championship, you're not going to want to stick in that rivalry at the timing as it is. However, as college football fans, we are losing out on an incredibly historic rivalry, been going on for 100 years at this point. Kira, take us through some of the most iconic moments in this rivalry.
Absolutely. I'd say one of the first came from the second time that those teams played. Fans immediately knew that there was something special there. In 1927, 120,000 attendees gathered to watch the Notre Dame USC game with a 7-6 Irish win at Soldier Field. Next, in 1988, the soon national championship Fighting Irish team knocked USC out of the playoffs, ending their historically undefeated season. Moving things into 2005, the rivalry was revitalized with the infamous, controversial Bush Push, and most recently in 2024, Notre Dame's 49-35 victory over the Trojans ultimately sent them to the national title game. So it was a really important time for the Irish, and it has a lot of important history and value to college football fans everywhere.
Yeah, I know a lot of Irish fans, including myself. Their favorite memories here include some of the USC games. It's an awesome rivalry. It sucks that it has to go. In terms of scheduling, USC has been a staple on Notre Dame's schedule for a long time. Kira, take us through the implications that losing the USC game will have on this Notre Dame schedule in the years to come.
Absolutely. So as an independent, Notre Dame really relies on those agreements to fill in their schedule and ensure that they have the best chance possible for playoff contention. Now, we know that Notre Dame plays those 5 regular ACC games each season. They have that Navy rivalry that comes along every season. But losing a game like USC, which has historic national championship playoff contention implications, is a really dangerous move on Notre Dame's behalf by not being able to reach an agreement there.
Looking forward into next year, Notre Dame has actually very quickly added in a BYU series this year and the following year. That game is going to be incredibly important to both of these teams' seasons, as these teams are looking to have a revenge tour next year. BYU is ranked 12th in the final committee poll, while Notre Dame was 11th, both barely missing out on the college football playoff. These teams next year are looking to revamp and come back in stronger than ever, trying to make a statement. Next year, the game will be held in Utah away for Notre Dame. It's going to be a huge game. Kira, can you preview a little bit of that game for us?
Absolutely. I mean, you were already starting to hit on that. They've both been fringe playoff teams looking to bounce back, looking to, kind of claim their stake here in college football powerhouses. Now, Catholics versus Mormon will draw in a really big crowd, and as we know, atmosphere plays a huge factor in team performance. And really, this is just Notre Dame's chance to prove themselves in the next 2 years, prove that they don't need this rivalry with USC to succeed moving into the college football playoffs.
Yeah, this BYU game next year is going to have implications beyond the Notre Dame season itself. A lot of talk to be coming with that. Right now, we're going to head it back to the desk. Thanks for sticking with us.
Welcome back to the studio, and the doors of the courtroom are open for business. College Courtroom is back here with Ethan Laszlo, Leo Romano, and of course, the world's greatest judge. 12 weeks ago, when Notre Dame's game against Boston College, we got to take a look at the coaching carousel and decide some legal logistics about what needed to happen in the sport itself. But as it usually does, college football is back to being chaotic, and there's some legislation needs to be made. So without further ado, court is open for business. I want a good, clean debate between you two, but of course, if you think fighting will get us viewership, by all means, just go for it.
We don't fight here at Notre Dame.
Perfect. Let's make that clean then. So for our first case, I think we just rip off the Band-Aid. We go with the toughest situation that has obviously been a sore subject here in South Bend, Notre Dame versus the college football playoffs. In our last show of the semester, we had to break the heartbreaking news that the Fighting Irish would not be in the 12-team postseason. And now that we have a completed bracket and a month of hindsight from the decision that really silenced South Bend, Leo, I'll start with you on this one. What do you really think is going to happen for Notre Dame? Did they deserve to be in those playoffs?
Yes, Notre Dame deserved the right to play for a national championship. Here's why. Number one, they passed the eye test. They ended the season on a 10-game win streak by an average of 30 points per game and ranked number 3 in ESPN's FPI. Number two, they have the best running back room in the nation. Now they're gone, but Price and Love were going to go 1 and number 2 in this year's draft. They also beat good teams down the stretch. Now I know they played teams like Syracuse, but they also played teams such as USC, Navy, Pitt, and they have the 2 best quality losses in all of college football, coming in their first 2 games of the season by 3 points to the runner-ups in Miami and by 1 point to Texas A&M.
Ethan, what about you? Do you think that Notre Dame really deserved a playoff spot over another competitor?
No, I don't. And here's why.
on.
The issue is that regardless of how much the 2 losses were by and who they were to, a loss is a loss. Notre Dame lost their 2 biggest games of the season. Their best win was against a solid USC team. The problem is that every at-large team in the college football playoff had a better signature win. In fact, the 2 teams that Notre Dame was primarily compared to, Alabama and Miami, both had a better win than Notre Dame's against USC.
But Bama got curb stomped.
Alabama also beat Georgia in the regular season. Miami beat Notre Dame themselves. There's no argument there. Miami has the head-to-head, and Alabama had the better resume. Also, of the 7 at-large teams in the college football playoff, 6 of them had a better strength of schedule than Notre Dame. Notre Dame, regardless of who they played down the stretch, was not battle-tested. And to put it frankly, one can't assume how Notre Dame would have done in the playoff because, in all honesty, they probably didn't even deserve a spot to begin with.
Wow. Bold statement. I've heard both of the facts, and I think I got to make a tough ruling. I'm going with Leo on this one. Notre Dame, even though both teams are talented between Notre Dame, Miami, and Bama, the 2 weeks of waiting for the Irish just really didn't have any effect that deserved them to push them out of the playoffs. So I think looking back at it now, Notre Dame would have deserved in those spot. But that leads into our next case that we have to take a look at. We've all seen the infamous representation of the LeBron and D-Wade alley-oop, this time with SpongeBob and Patrick. But it's really the text that intrigues me more. And it says, "Congratulations on another hypothetical win, Notre Dame." Ethan, do the hypotheticals have any value in terms of seeing how Notre Dame improved over the season, or are just the facts too cold?
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you what, David, here's why. There is a reason that college football is played on the gridiron instead of on a sheet of paper or in a casino. Because sometimes the team that's favored isn't going to win. In the college football playoff this year, of the 11 games, 6 of them, more than half, had the lower seeded team win. In college football, the better team doesn't always win. Putting it simply, Ohio State in the playoff this year lost to Miami. Not a single person saw that coming, I would argue. Ohio State was the team to beat all season until they dropped a 3-point Big Ten championship to Indiana, who would eventually be national champs. And what happened? They dropped a shocker to Miami in the quarterfinals. Notre Dame's hypothetical wins mean nothing, especially considering the path they likely would have had if they got into the playoff. Assuming they would have had the 10 seed and Miami the 9, they would have had to take the same route Miami did. At Texas A&M, against Ohio State, against Ole Miss, and finally against Indiana. First of all, Indiana would have had a giant chip on their shoulder trying to prove their dominance, but also Notre Dame would have had to get over the Ohio State hump. I just don't see the Irish having any value in their hypotheticals.
Well, you say that the better team doesn't always win. Can't you use that same logic and apply it to weeks 1 and 2?
That is true.
And say Notre Dame's the better team and deserves to get into the college football playoffs?
But then I would argue Notre Dame was favored in both of those games, right?
Yeah, they most certainly were. To go back to your question, Your Honor, Notre Dame wins the national championship if they're in. Another hypothetical win for Notre Dame indeed. But here is why. Let's say they get in at number 10, as Ethan suggested. They would have beaten A&M the second time around. Their defense was a lot better than it was here in week 3. Then they would have battled it out against OSU. And I get it. Notre Dame hasn't beaten OSU since the 1930s, pre-World War I, if you will. But they win that game because of Carr's arm against the weaker corners of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And now, even though the D might not be good enough to totally stop Chambliss and that Ole Miss team, I think the offense is suited to win a shootout like that. And then Indiana, that's a coin toss for me. It's always going to be a coin flip when you have two of the best teams in the nation battling it out. But I think Notre Dame would have gotten to the top of the mountain.
Well, I've heard both of your stances, and even these hypotheticals are backed by facts, but unfortunately only one winner gets to be decided, and this one goes to Ethan. It's really tough to say that hypotheticals can get a team into the playoffs. Even if Notre Dame deserved that spot, it wasn't up to what ifs or anything to get them to that last 10 or 12 spot. Finally, we got a tiebreaker. We got to end it some way, and I've come up with a new spot. There's been a lot of discussion on how the new 12-team playoffs have been executed. A lot of issues with how teams are decided, how teams are structured, and I'm going to let y'all both be a plaintiff in terms of saying, what is the best new playoff structure? So, Leo, starting with you, what is your ideal postseason vision?
14 teams. I think you need 14 teams. The top 2 get a bye, 3 plays 14, 4 plays 13, so on and so forth. And all of those first-round games are at home. Then you get into the second round with 8 teams, the quarterfinals. Those, I would also advocate for those to be played at home. Because why would the top 2 teams in the country get a bye and then not be able to get to play in front of their home crowd? Now, if they have to be, I get it because of money reasons that it might have to just be New Year's Six Bowls, but it's a fun idea. Then you get your Final 4 games regularly as they're scheduled, and then finally the championship game. And then once you expand it to 14 teams, it's hard to say that any one team deserves to get in over another because at that point, it just doesn't make sense to argue that.
Right, Ethan, what about you? Do you have an ideal postseason view or structure that you'd like to switch it up to?
I do, and I'll tell you what, Your Honor, this is an all-or-nothing scenario for me. I say we go back to the old BCS 2-team system or make it uniform and adopt the 24-team FCS style of playoff.
Either or option.
Either option works for me. But I would argue that the most important thing is getting rid of the playoff committee and adopting a system of computer rankings much like the BCS. But the 2-team system is very self-explanatory. The 2 best teams at the end of the year go to a specific New Year's Six bowl game that could rotate every year, and they play for the national championship. That rewards the teams that take advantage of the regular season. Or you adopt the FCS format, where every conference champion is rewarded. This year, that could have included some fun conference champs. Duke, Western Michigan, Boise State, Kennesaw State, and we could have also gotten some fun games. Doesn't the game in the college football playoffs sound pretty fun to you?
It does.
How about BYU at Oregon?
A little bit.
Texas Tech and Texas. All those games sound really fun, and if you want to argue against parity, unranked Illinois State made a run to the national championship in the FCS this year after taking down top-ranked North Dakota State, a perennial powerhouse in the FCS, in their house.
No, but the FBS is a total different beast than the FCS. There's layers to it. There's divisions to it that really separate talent from the second tier. So I don't know. And who wants to watch Kennesaw State? Come on. The two teams, though, I like. I like the two teams. And computer-based, good idea.
Wow, so some concession from both sides. I do like your precision with the record in terms of the structure, scheduling, computer. However, Leo, I'm going to go with you on this one. 14 teams sounds like a phenomenal idea to end off the year for college football. We got a lot of stuff to put into legislation, but in the meantime, Jack and Brendan have the inside scoop on a team hoping to regain their dominance as the best in the country. Notre Dame men's lacrosse returns tonight in South Bend. What do you have for us, guys?
What's up, Irish fans? Alongside Jack Muthing, I'm Brendan Mado. Jack, men's lacrosse schedule just came out. What do you think about it?
I mean, challenging doesn't even come close to describing what's facing the Irish this year. They'll be playing an 11-game regular season, and of those 11, 7 of the games are going to be against teams that made the NCAA tournament last year. It's one of the toughest schedules in the nation, if not the toughest, and there's a lot of rematches I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, big factor playing in that is the Irish, again, members of the ACC for men's lacrosse this year. That accounts for 5 games on the schedule. Georgetown, North Carolina, Duke, Virginia, and Syracuse. Big games to look out for, Georgetown and Syracuse. Syracuse, kind of the Irish's kryptonite last year, got them both in the regular season and the ACC tournament.
Yeah, obviously Syracuse is going to be an incredibly tough game. They come in as the second-ranked team in the country in the preseason poll by Inside Lacrosse. The Irish will also be playing a very tough non-conference schedule. They'll be playing the number 1 team in the Inside Lacrosse preseason poll in the Maryland Terrapins. Maryland got the best of the Irish last year, winning it in a 1-goal thriller, but the Irish got the best of them the year before, winning the national championship over Maryland to secure their second national championship. The Irish will also be playing the Ohio State Buckeyes, and you know they'll be looking for revenge last year. The Irish played what's widely considered to be their best game of the year last season in that first round of the NCAA tournament, where they knocked off the 4th seed in a big upset. So Buckeyes certainly going to be looking for revenge after that one. It's an incredibly tough conference schedule, but also a tough non-conference schedule.
The Irish likely will fall behind if they don't keep up with that schedule. Looking to add their 3rd national championship to the program record books. The name of that game is going to be defense. Sean Light, the captain on the defense for the Irish, named USA Lacrosse's preseason defenseman of the year. That comes after a well-decorated 2025, winning the co-defensive player of the year in the country and in the ACC for Sean Light. So, absence of the Kavanaugh brothers, that era is kind of over for the Irish, so it's not going to be as powerful of an offensive attack for them, but the defense should be able to hold up. The Irish are going to play fast and going to play strong this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be a name of the game is going to be defense for Notre Dame, and that's going to help them as they head into this tough schedule. And there are certainly some must-win games if they want to make the tournament. The tournament only takes 18 teams, so it's incredibly tough to make if you're Notre Dame, or really if you're anyone in college lacrosse. But there are a few must-wins for Notre Dame. For instance, you got to win a few of the ACC games, to say the least. They went 4-1 in the ACC regular season last season, just losing to Syracuse in the regular season. So you have to win at least 3 or 4 of those, I'd say. You can lose to Syracuse maybe because they're that incredible, but you really can only lose 1 other game, if that, at the most. And you also got to take advantage of some of these non-conference games. Maryland is going to be an incredibly tough game, but you got to take advantage of teams like Ohio State, who Notre Dame will be stronger than most likely this season. Also, there's some trap games in there for Notre Dame. Richmond, they made the tournament last year. They aren't looking as strong this year, but they're still an incredibly tough opponent coming after a tough run of games. The Irish have to take them seriously as well. So there's not a lot of breathing room for the Irish, but there's certainly some games you have to win in there.
It's very important to win when it matters. You know, learn from those regular season games, clean it up for the ACC tournament, and as I mentioned, avoid falling behind. Stay ahead in the rankings as much as possible. Avoid losing any spots due to trap games like Richmond. And the Irish should be in pretty good shape. They come in number 7 in our preseason poll. I'm Brendan Mado alongside Jack Muthing. We're going to toss it back to the desk for David Owens and Isaiah Dunn to talk a little bit more women's basketball.
Well, a very challenging schedule here for lacrosse. We've covered lacrosse, we've covered football. Now it's time to set our pivot foot into women's basketball. I'm here joined by Isaiah Dunn. Isaiah, your live debut. Welcome to Shamrock Sports.
Hey, I'm super excited to be here. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. It's great talking about it with you, David.
Well, let's get right into it. We're about 2 months away from March, halfway through the college basketball season, and so far, this season has not really gone the way it should have been for the women's basketball team here at Notre Dame. 2-4 against ranked opponents. Many speculations believe this has something to do with both injuries and fatigue. In their past 2 ranked matchups against Louisville and UConn, Notre Dame has only utilized 6 of their total 10 players. Isaiah, what do you make of these small roster schemes from Neil Ivey?
Well, David, before I get into that, do you play any pickup basketball?
Only if you mean Cathometric League of Atlanta.
Well, David, I don't know what that is, but I was playing pickup basketball yesterday, right? We're in game 5. You know what that got me? A bunch of blisters and jelly legs.
Right.
And that's exactly what this team is going through. They're having blisters and jelly legs. Look, this is not a talent issue, and this is not an effort issue. This is a lack of depth and an overload of the core. That's simply what it is.
Yeah.
They have a 6-player rotation.
Okay.
All of them are averaging roughly 30 minutes per game. And I'm not a math major, but there's 40 minutes in a basketball game, David. And that's a lot of minutes that they're averaging. And Hannah is getting 35 plus per game.
Wow.
She's not coming out. And she's doing a lot for this team. She's not having a bad year whatsoever. She's averaging roughly around 27 points per game. And this team is just doing the best they can. But like I said, this is an overload issue and lack of depth.
Interesting. And really, this is going to be an uphill battle that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the season here on Shamrock Sports. But looking more into the future side of things, Notre Dame has always been a top school for many of the most elite prospects to take their talents to. However, the way this team has been trending, we've seen a lot of players leave early or not choose Notre Dame as their dream basketball school. Heading into the next couple of seasons, what do you imagine for Notre Dame in terms of grabbing players for their recruitment and keeping them for the long run?
Yeah, I have so much confidence in Coach Ivey. I believe she's proven herself time and time again to bring in the right talent. Not only the right talent, but the character as well. I think that's a testament to who she is as a leader, and she's going to consistently bring in the right players. The worry I have is the transfer portal and the unpredictability within it. We've lost last year we had Kylie Watson, we had Sonia Citron, who went to the league, but Olivia Miles was a huge loss in the transfer portal. So we lost some big names that would have played a lot of minutes this year. You know what I mean? So it's just the transfer portal is super unpredictable, and that's really where I'm worried about. But when you have a player like Hannah Hidalgo, a lot of little girls look up to her, and they want to be here. So I have no issue whatsoever with girls wanting to come to Notre Dame. It's just the retention factor that I worry about.
Right, and Notre Dame continuing to be an ideal school for women to chase their basketball dreams. We've got to talk about the depth for this team. Now it's time for Shamrock Sports to go deep in our bags with the best college basketball picks of the weekend. We'll be right back after this 50-second break.
No one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's the old way. It's like you're always stuck in second gear when it hasn't been your day, a week, a month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the race starts to go. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you 'cause I'm there for you
Well, we had to wrap up Shamrock Sports with the best segment to close off a show. Basket Bookie returns for the first time of 2026, and time to make some money. Get the fans a little cash for the side hustle. Ethan, where this weekend do you see green in the college basketball arena?
Well, David, I'm going down to Cincinnati. We've got the St. John's Red Storm taking on Xavier. It's the battle of the Patinos. Rick Pitino against his son Richard Pitino, but the stakes are pretty high in this one. Rick Pitino going for his 900th win all time. Stakes could not be higher for an already high stakes family rivalry. St. John's is 4-0 on the road this season. They've been doing very well. They're coming off a 15-point comeback win over Seton Hall just in the last couple days, while Xavier's coming off a tough 1-point loss to Creighton. In this one, I think Rick Pitino's getting the win. He told his guys that he would leave them in Cincinnati if they didn't pull out the win. I'm taking St. John's outright to beat Xavier.
Well, I'm really excited to watch your game, Ethan, and I'm really excited to take a trip down southwest to the Lone Star State. I had to pick the only ranked matchup of Saturday Give me Texas Tech versus Houston. The Red Raiders host the Cougars at home. Last time they played in Houston, Texas Tech had a 14-point loss, but this was before JT Toppin has dropped 30 points over the last 2 games. He said, I want 2 to 3, so he's going back down to his own home turf, hopefully beating Houston or winning by less than 7. Isaiah, what do you have?
Look, I have NC State at Pitt. Basically, I'm picking them. And if you do a background check, I might be a little biased. My best friend, Darian Williams, is on the team, but he's not only my best friend, he is a natural hooper. So I'm taking the underdogs with NC State beating Pitt at Pitt. And they just came off a big win. They just beat Clemson, ranked 18th in the country, and I have them winning this game as well.
Wow, another underdog matchup. Leo, what about you? Do you have someone rising up to the occasion, or do you have another dominant power taking home the case?
No, I got a dominant power
Wow.
taking home the case. I like to go to the game. This time on hardwood. Michigan plays Ohio State tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. That game will be on Fox. I think Michigan is just going to be too much for the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're going to win this one by the 18 points that they lost by to Ohio State back in November.
Well, we got 4 buzzer beater picks in case you want to make a little side money on the weekend. That's going to do it here for Basketbookie, and unfortunately, that's going to do it here for Shamrock Sports of the Week. It's very cold outside here in South Bend, but NDTV is just heating up in only 2 weeks. We'll be back next Friday with even more of the best sports content. But until then, we say goodbye.